but it will increase the morale of our land units, all of our infantry divisions, and it will make us lose a whole bunch of generals. So you can do that any time you want, essentially, as long as you fill the requirements to be able to do it in the first place. I'm not going to do it now, obviously, don't need to. But other decisions pop up over time, depending on whether you're at war or not, or what the date is even, and things like that. Like, for example, we have here the reorganization of the internal police, where basically we can choose to reintroduce the old Tsarist secret police, which is the Okhrana, which means we'll be able to combat rebels and dissenting groups far more efficiently. Which, you know, could be a good idea, might not be a good idea. Doing it will make us lose a whole bunch of money. I have considered doing it earlier, but doing it will make us lose too much money, and it's not going to matter very soon. As I said, if we're going to basically recreate the Soviet Union, and the way that will happen is, what I'm aiming for is to essentially have a coup d'etat. I will get enough Bolsheviks in government to essentially seize power, much the way Hitler did, essentially. Russia will quite literally turn red on the map. It will change colour. We will get a different flag up here on the diplomacy screen. Oh, Maxim Gorky has died, so... Oh, it's some Russian writer, which means we get another point of national descent, but who cares? It's not very much. So yeah, up here on the diplomacy screen, we will no longer be known as Russia, we'll be known as Soviet Russia. Brilliant. And we'll get a different flag and stuff like that, and we'll have a bunch of different ministers, and we'll also get a bunch of different tech teams to research things with, which is the main reason I've not decided to touch any technology stuff at the minute, because anything we research tech-wise will soon be made null and void and gotten rid of, because we've essentially changed the country we're playing as, and in no uncertain terms. Phew. I feel like I'm having to do a lot of explanation, which is probably true, really. I mean, I'm operating on the assumption that most of you guys watching this will not have played or are not particularly familiar with Hearts of Iron, which is probably the case, considering I think probably the bulk of my subscribers watch the Morrowind and the Morrowind stuff. And I'm kind of going out on a limb here and assuming that the average Morrowind player probably doesn't play a lot of Hearts of Iron. Could be totally wrong, and you've all played this at one point or another before, but I think that's kind of a bit unlikely. So I'm doing my best to explain it to you, as opposed to just playing it as if and assuming everyone watching understands, because that just kind of alienates you guys a bit. Projected limits exceeded. Okay, a bunch of factories have built an extra load of stuff, which means we get some more things. Hello. Transamur, which is this little white country down here, is demanding territory from us. Basically, we have a bunch of territories they want, and they're asking for them, and they can fuck right off. Quite frankly, they've already... this should be part of Russia as it is. They're not taking any more from me. So, yeah. I'm having to explain a lot, but, you know, it's just the way it goes. What this isn't is a tutorial, essentially. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to play the game and stuff like that. I am, on the other hand, going to give you a basic enough of an idea to be able to follow along what's going on. Because I find that kind of a bit annoying sometimes when I'm watching a Let's Player do a game, and like he or she doesn't bother to explain sort of the rough idea of what's going on in the game they're playing, which means it's incredibly difficult to follow along for the audience, which basically just makes me switch off. Alright, okay, so we've got another box here, the capital. Either of Russia's historic capitals could become the home of our government. Where should we be? So we can choose either to make the capital of Russia St. Petersburg, over here, or Moscow, over here. I'm going to go with Moscow, because, well, for a couple of reasons. Main one being St. Petersburg is too closely associated with the old Tsarist order and is not appropriate for a new worker state to have their capital at. And also for a strategic reason, being that St. Petersburg is awfully close to both Finland, It's literally next door to Finland, and also the German-controlled Eastern European states over here. There is simply not big enough of a buffer there between the capital and the Germans. So I'm going to move to Moscow instead. So Moscow is now our new capital, which is good news. Moscow is actually a bigger city anyway, so, you know. But basically, at the end of the day, I just don't want my capital city being overrun within 5 minutes of a war starting, because that'd be pretty goddamn bad. Okay, so apparently Abyssinia, aka Ethiopia, is now having a civil war with itself. For some reason. Your guess is as good as mine to why exactly. You know, I can't even see them both on the map. I mean, what's going on? There should be like two. Oh, it just says Ethiopia when I click around here. And then the German territory down there and Middle Africa down there. So yeah. It's kind of odd, but anyway. I've noticed also that our industrial capacity at the top here has gone up quite a bit. Our available industrial capacity, that is. It's probably because our descent has gone down. And also because we've finished reinforcing all our divisions. So I need to set these sliders different ones. So reinforcement go down to 0 because we don't need any. And consumer goods can go down to around 16. Slightly higher than what we actually need, which is 13. But that's just so we get a little bit of extra money coming in as a surplus. And it will also reduce descent. So in fact, actually bearing that in mind, I'm going to bump it up a bit further to around 28, which will mean our descent will be reduced by quite a fair amount each day, and reducing our descent is pretty damn important. In the meantime, the rest of our stuff is going to go on supplies, bring that back up to the minimum we need, which is about 13. And the rest, the 28 we have, is going to go on upgrades for upgrading our troops, essentially. Since at the moment, if I go to the production screen, click on land divisions, I believe we have, yeah, we have stuff like 1928 cavalry divisions. This is literally horse cavalry, by the way. Whereas I think the existing cavalry we have around here somewhere is out of date. Yeah, see, it's 1924. And also the artillery, which a lot of our brigades are equipped with, is also out of date. So I'm going to put that on upgrades for now. A little bit. We need 93 points on that to upgrade everything fully, but I will leave it on 28 just so it can slowly tick over and upgrade more stuff over a longer period of time while we get other stuff out of the way. Aha, let's have a look. Agitation in the countryside. With the situation in the country growing increasingly unstable, the peasants became easy to influence by various agitators. One such situation has recently taken place. A charismatic activist visited a number of villages, calling for open revolt against our regime. How should we react to this potential threat? We can either let him agitate, we have more important business, which will increase our national descent by 3%, or we can eliminate him, which will increase our national descent by 1%. We are going to eliminate him. We have no time for rebel nonsense. Hopefully, that won't have any particularly bad effects. Once or twice I know I've done in this game, I've clicked a seemingly innocuous option on an event pop-up that I'd got, and it had catastrophic consequences. So right, yeah, reforming the Navy. This is one of our main military events we're going to have pop up, which is quite a big deal, actually. Recent naval maneuvers have led us to one conclusion. The Russian Navy is a mess. You don't bleed and say. I swear, most of our ships, if you click through them, are like literally kind of like First World War battleships and stuff like that. It's horrendously out of date. But anyway. Sweeping reforms are needed if we're going to dominate the seas once more. Each of our top admirals have come up with a plan. Their proposals await the government's consultation. So basically we have three choices here. We can side with Robert von Viren, one of our admirals, who basically says a large open seas fleet is the best way to go. So he's basically he's going to opt in for the more traditional option, which is basically lots of battleships, lots of heavy cruisers, to make a big fleet. We have Ivan Bosrem, who advocates submarines and fast raider ships, which is basically a fleet largely focused around, well, like it says, submarines, which is essentially what Germany did during the Second World War with their U-boats and stuff. Since they didn't have a very big navy and no time to build a larger one, they focused on U-boats to harass enemy convoys and things like that. And the third option, which is Mikhail Behrens, who advocates aircraft carriers. He says aircraft carriers are the way of the future. Now, we don't really have the capability to build aircraft carriers at this point, or the need to. However, at some point in the future we are going to want to build a proper navy, and aircraft carriers in this game are essentially the best naval units in the game. A navy with lots of aircraft carriers will dominate all others, essentially. The US, for example, is the main nation in the world with the largest aircraft carrier fleets, and fighting them is a huge pain in the ass if you don't have aircraft carriers of your own. So essentially I have a bit of a choice here. I can either go with a fast to build and more economic submarine fleet, because the battleship fleet is right out. You know, battleships are outdated and expensive, and I'm just not going to do it. Or we can go with carriers. Right, okay, I'm back. I had to pop up there. Unexpected visitors, you see. But anyway, right, so we can choose between, like I was saying, carriers and submarines. Submarines are a more immediate solution to the fact that we have no navy whatsoever, basically, worth having. And carriers would be a sort of kind of an investment for the future in sort of the late game, where I'm going to have to start expanding overseas. And it's a tricky decision, but I'm going to go with aircraft carriers. For the simple reason that eventually, I think navy is just not going to be a concern for us at all in the early game, which means while submarines would be cheaper to get immediately, we don't actually need them. Whereas later on we will need big ships like aircraft carriers, and basically what choosing each of these options will do is give us lots of blueprints, which are a blueprint for a certain tech will allow you to research it much faster than you would normally. So it's quite a choice here, because it will give us a crap load of blueprints in the particular tech tree path that we want to go in. So I'm going to pick carriers, and that will give us a crap load of blueprints in lots of aircraft carrier based technologies. It will, however, according to this, change our national descent by plus 5%, because it's the it's the more revolutionary and orthodox option at this point. But I'm willing to take the hit, because the bonus later on will pay off. What's going on elsewhere in the world, I wonder? For now, nothing really important at the moment. We're all still in that kind of phase just prior to where everything begins to kick off. Like all the wars begin to start and stuff like that. So yeah, nothing else is really going on at the minute. Okay, go away. Right, pause. Bleed neck. Okay, that peasant situation seems to have evolved. Which is probably not good. This might be my fault, actually, for choosing to eliminate that agitator dude. So essentially what's happened is, agitated by various groups, the impoverished peasantry has risen up. Local administration is powerless against the mob, and it seems the only way to solve the crisis is to use brutal force. Alternatively, we can always attempt to negotiate, although satisfying